Flaming June and a merciless sun, glimpsed safely only from the shade. The best place for lessons on a day that broke a record set when these children's grandparents were in class.
I feel more calm than being inside the classroom because it's much more hotter and a bit uneasy to learn in there.
It makes me feel very fresh and very calm out here.
Hundreds of schools closed. Others are learning to beat the heat.
There's a safety issue, and in weather like this, we want them to still learn, and unless they're comfortable, they're gonna find that more challenging.
In temperatures tropical, the urban jungle is a hostile environment. We headed out with Britain's biggest and busiest ambulance service.
And is he responding normally?
Braced for a 50% spike in 999 calls.
This heat turns us all into potential victims.
That's right. I mean, the extreme heat we're going to see over the next 48 hours or so could affect you or I, could affect perfectly healthy people. So it's important that people avoid alcohol, drink lots of water, eat when they get hungry, and stay out the sun when it's at its hottest.
It's just gone noon and we've been out with these paramedics for a little more than an hour. I have to say it is blisteringly hot, and it's not just the human body which is ill-equipped for this kind of temperature. The whole world around us is not designed for days like this.
On the railways, travellers were warned to set out for essential journeys only.
I think it's pretty pathetic that if it's cold, it doesn't work, and if it's hot, it doesn't work.
I think it keeps on happening, but the country just doesn't learn. It's the same old thing over and over again.
The heat will be with us for a while to come, and it seems unlikely that Britain will wait another 50 years for the next record to be shattered. John Ray, ITV News.
Well, as the country scorched, rail passengers were told to only travel if absolutely necessary, whilst the Met Office warned the heat posed a danger to life. In a moment, we'll go to Charlie Frost, who's in Southend. But first, Ben Chapman is in Milton Keynes, where a number of trains have been cancelled. And Ben, what should we expect in the coming days?
Well, here this afternoon we've seen and spoken to some pretty hot, bothered and frankly miserable train passengers coming out of the gates here behind me. They have faced cancellations, delays and perhaps worst of all, air conditioning failures today. Here, a quarter of all Avanti West Coast services just simply didn't run at all, and those reduced timetables are going to continue into tomorrow and now we're told into Friday as well. In the last half an hour, National Rail has updated its advice to passengers, advising against all but essential travel in the hottest part of the country right through until Saturday now at the earliest. Those who already have tickets are being told they can use them on a different day. Those who do need to travel are being advised to plan their journey carefully.
And as you can see here, plenty of people are still enjoying the sun, and during the hottest part of the day, the beach was still very busy. People not deterred by that official advice to stay out of the sun between 11 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that advice goes for tomorrow because that red extreme heat warning stretching from Birmingham to Portsmouth, Cardiff to London is in place until the end of Thursday. Here in Southend, we're on the edge of that red warning. We're under an amber warning, and that's in place across the east of England until Saturday. So tips to stay safe if you have to go outside. Plenty of sun cream, sun hats and water. And if you are heading to the beach, check the tide times, don't get stuck and don't submerge yourself in the cold water too quickly. Enter the sea gradually.
Hi.
Hi. Showing off dresses that now won't be worn for a few more months. Students at Wood Green School in Witney have seen tomorrow's prom postponed until September because of the heatwave. Staff say they cannot guarantee transport, catering or the safe running of the event in the extreme temperatures. For many of these excited teenagers, it's a huge disappointment.
Year 6, COVID happened, so we missed out on like discos, residentials, and now I just feel like it's happening again. I've booked makeup appointments, hair appointments, and obviously I've had to change those appointments, which is quite annoying for the hairdressers and stuff. So I've missed out on like deposits, and now I have to wait longer and longer.
Many parents have headed to designated safe swimming spots like Port Meadow in Wolvercote, where children can cool off and enjoy the water. That's because more than 100 schools in Oxfordshire have shut because of the heat.
I tried to get into a few swimming pools, everywhere fully booked. So I thought, what did I used to do when it was really hot here? And swim in the river. So yeah, found this place and I think it's great.
And the kids are off school, are they?
Yeah. I don't see the right... It's like some kids are off school, some kids are still doing trips or still at school, like primary school. Why can't they just say it's 2 hot days, all of you are off, done, dusted, everybody's happy?
This isn't just any hot day. The Met Office has issued an extreme red heat warning, only the second time it's done so since 2021, signalling that this heat wave not only poses serious risks to the most vulnerable, but also to the wider population with widespread health impacts and a danger to life. Health experts say the priority is staying cool and hydrated. Simple measures can make a difference, keeping out of direct sunlight, drinking plenty of water and opening windows on the shaded side of your home while keeping those on the sunny side closed.
Sometimes it might actually be cooler for people to rest outside. So, it might be better to sit under a tree in a park or go to a cooler public space than it is to stay within the house. Also really to think about your activities. So if you're outside and in those times between 11 and 3, normally when the UV is the strongest, make sure you're really protecting yourself. So wearing a wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses and sunscreen.
For those caring for the most vulnerable, the heat brings particular concern. This charity in central Oxford has extended its support under the severe weather emergency protocol, opening its doors to more people during the heatwave. Staff say they're especially worried about dehydration, heat exhaustion and severe sunburn.
Let's say a queue of 50 people, we wouldn't turn any one of those people away. Obviously, when they come in the building, our staff would then talk to them, get water, cool shower, some food, maybe a change of clothing. But yeah, we don't turn anybody away.
Network Rail is advising passengers to travel only if necessary, with rail operators across the region running reduced services to prevent tracks from buckling in the heat. On the roads, motorists are also being warned of an increased risk of tyre blowouts and overheated engines.
We are advising drivers here at the RAC to make sure they have an emergency pack with them, obviously plenty of water, sunscreen, things like that, but also umbrellas, other sorts of things you can use to keep the fierce sun from you while you wait for assistance.
Let's have a peek at this one.
It's not only people feeling the effects. Vets say dogs are especially vulnerable in extreme temperatures. Owners are being urged to watch for signs of heat stroke, including excessive panting, red or pale gums, and a lack of coordination.
To take your dog into a cool place, get some cold water onto it, get fans on it and call your vet as soon as possible. And the advice these days is offer it small amounts of cold water to drink, little and often, but get the cold water on the dog. Don't cover them in wet towels, that traps the heat in. The cold water, as it evaporates, helps to cool the body temperature down.
As the Thames Valley endures another day of exceptional heat, with temperatures as high as 35 degrees, the message remains clear. Take care, stay cool and look out for those most at risk. Kieran Fitzpatrick, ITV News.
Well, this is the second time a red heat alert has been issued in the UK, with the first declared back in 2022. It's also the second heat wave to occur in our region so far this year.
Our reporter Juliet Fletcher has been speaking to a meteorologist at the University of Reading, where a record temperature for June was recorded today.
At the Atmospheric Observatory this morning, Dr. Rob Thompson was taking a look at the readings. By around 10:30, it was 34 degrees.
This morning we've broken the records for June temperatures here, and our records go back nearly 120 years. 1908 are our first readings, so they have moved site, but the University of Reading, it's not very far. These records are totally unprecedented. So we had the hottest June day yesterday, hottest in terms of mean and maximum temperature, and then overnight we've now had the hottest minimum temperature as well.
What is happening to cause these high temperatures?
We've got what's often called a heat dome, so an anticyclone or high pressure area has come in. That causes a lot of descending air through the atmosphere and sort of puts a lid onto what can happen with the temperatures and so on. It's a bit like cooking the saucepan. You put the lid on, it holds the heat in more effectively, and the same thing really happens in the atmosphere. So it's gone, put the lid on, the hot air gets trapped in the low down, can't really mix out, and the sun is really intense at this time of year, so that sort of bakes the surface. And it sort of self-sustains as well, because it dries out the surface, so any moisture that would normally take a bit of the sun's energy very quickly can get evaporated out, and there's very little left.
The 2020s have been the hottest on record, and this is the second heatwave this year.
Having one doesn't make another, and heat waves, you get years with lots of runs of heat waves. There were 5 heat waves in 2022, the last really hot summer, when we had this breaking 40 degrees around in parts of the UK. Will we get that again? Hard to tell, and it depends on what happens with the atmospherics. Forecasts at the moment are that this sort of really hot spell will break down, sort of coming into the weekend, and return to more normal. And when I say more normal, I don't mean cold, I mean probably still warmer than average. We need as a country to be prepared that this will happen again, and it's not going to be every year, but it's going to happen, and we should be ready for the next time.
Keeping your concentration in class is not easy during a record-breaking heat wave. These youngsters at Windstream Primary School were clearly feeling the effects, but finding all sorts of different ways to cool themselves down.
We've been going under the shade a lot, we've been bringing in these spray bottles, and we've also been allowed to wear our PE kit.
I'm drinking loads, filling up my bottle with cold water, using my fan in class. We're allowed to wear comfy shoes.
Definitely put on sunscreen and try to stay in the shade most of the time.
Very sweaty and it's kind of a bit overstimulating. It was good at first, but now it's just a bit rubbish and it's not nice.
We're adapting in the moment. We're trying to use common sense. We're responding to the children, and the staff are being incredible. We all behave differently in the heat, don't we? So sometimes we need to take a little bit of time just to calm down a little bit more, but the water, the shade really helps that. We do talk about the changes in the climate that we're seeing a little bit, but we also talk about the seasonal changes that you see, and that's especially important for the younger children to understand that change over time.
At Age UK's centre in Exeter, the rising temperatures could not stop the weekly Tai Chi class.
Exercising like this morning was a challenge really in this heat, where we find it easier usually, but now we're struggling a bit obviously. It's just exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't too bad because you had the fans going.
Yes, that helps,
so
the fan helped.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it was more difficult than usual, but we managed.
We as an organisation are trying to run as best we can, making safe decisions about classes whilst also offering tips to older people in Exeter. Don't overdo it, drink plenty of water, perhaps choose the cooler times to go out. Maybe think about going out first thing in the morning or first thing in the evening to take your constitutional. Don't go out in those high summer times. Keep your house cool. All of the tips are on our website, Age UK Exeter, so please go on there and it tells you some hints and tips to keep cool during this wonderful weather.
Things are predicted to cool down as we approach the weekend, but for now, we're all doing what we can to keep the heat at bay. Sam Blackledge, ITV News, Exeter.
Yes, we really are. And one of those children said it was fun at first.
And now it's not.
Not really fun anymore, is it?
It's got a bit too hot today, hasn't it? And as we saw in Sam's report, people are dealing with the extreme heat across the West Country with some of the highest temperatures ever recorded.
Yes, and earlier we were joined in the studio by Josh Howkins from the UK Health Security Agency, and we asked him how this intense heat can affect people's health.
So the red alert implies a severe warning, and this is a heat health alert, so particularly focused on the effects on health. We know that people die every year from the heat. So last year we saw over 1,500 deaths in England related to the heat. Previous years there's been more, and we also know that because of the high humidity this time, we expect there to be an additional stress on the health of the population, and not just vulnerable people, but the general population as well.
It has been extended now, hasn't it, until Friday? You touched on it a bit there, but which groups are the most at risk in this heat?
Yeah, it's extended as though, although the heat is dropping off, we know that the impacts may be felt for longer. So people, as I mentioned earlier, everyone may be at increased risk from the heat, but we know some people are more vulnerable. So people older than 65, people younger than 5, and particularly babies, find it perhaps harder to regulate their body temperature. People with medical conditions can struggle, and we know that across the general population we have an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes related to the heat. People on certain medications need to be particularly careful as well. So a lot of people need to be particularly careful, and there's a lot of people, such as myself, can do to check in on others and make sure they've got everything they need.
I mean, it sounds serious, and I know not going out is a good thing, but even the houses are hot. I mean, what's your advice?
It is hot. So your primary first thing is staying out of the heat of the day, sort of around the middle of the day. If we are indoors, then keeping curtains, blinds, windows closed when the sun is on those windows. It can keep the house a bit cooler, and then only opening them up when the temperature outside drops down to below the temperature of the inside. Again, if it's safe to do so. So staying out of the heat of the day, staying hydrated is absolutely vital. And as we mentioned earlier, just checking in on people who perhaps live alone and may not have access to help.
This seems to be happening more and more often. Is that the impression you get? And what are we doing to keep people safe?
So we are expecting with climate change an increase in the frequency, how often these events come, and also the severity to some degree as well. These heat health alerts are particularly focused around sort of preparing for the increased risk that we see from the heat. So the NHS does a lot all throughout the year to prepare for these sorts of events. And my organisation, the UK Health Security Agency, we work with a lot of partners to prepare for these sort of events as well.
Okay, well, Josh, thank you very much for giving us that advice.
Thank you.
It's a heat you can almost see, a sizzling on the skyline, impacting outside and in.
You want to do that well done, Noah.
For this nursery in Newport, they're having to close early because it's just too hot.
So Chloe and Blake, how are you finding the heat?
Struggling. It's been very hot, hasn't it? Very hot, yeah. I've had to take half day from work today to accommodate, and then my partner yesterday had to finish early, so slightly inconvenient, but needs must.
I can imagine other countries have this kind of thing prepared, but unfortunately we just don't. We don't have a lot of sun a lot, so I think this is a very rare occasion, but when it happens, it's pretty intense.
This is where the babies would normally sleep, but they can't be in here today. Just look at that temperature.
Children under 5 typically can't regulate their body temperatures as we can as adults, and we don't feel comfortable putting children to sleep in unsafe environments, despite the best measures that we could put in place. A red weather warning is key. It does say it's risk to life and disruption. We've tried to minimise that as much as possible for parents, knowing that we provide a service to support working families. In this instance, we just felt that we weren't going to compromise the children's safety.
This morning in Cardiff, it was 29 degrees by 8 a.m, but there was kindness beyond measure.
Yeah, it's really, really hard work. Like I said, the heat don't help. Look at the state of me, I'm soaking wet. But like I said, the general public are great. They do fantastic for us.
We've been shown so much kindness, and I mean, it's not just from Ely. We do Ely, Grangetown, Splot and Lanarkshire. They're constantly giving us drinks, constantly asking about our welfare. It's really appreciated.
Well, the heat is affecting everyone's daily life, from what they do to what they wear. But for some people, it can be a real risk to their health.
So during extreme heat, we see an increase in demand on the emergency department and other parts of the hospital. We see conditions ranging from sunburn and dehydration to more serious conditions such as heat stroke. And we also see an increase in other conditions such as stroke, heart attacks and other respiratory and cardiovascular related problems.
At the moment, we experience around 3 heat waves a year, but that's expected to more than double by 2050, costing thousands of lives.
Each year there are about 2,000 deaths because of the excess heat, and that we call them excess deaths essentially because of those heat waves. So we do need to make sure that people are prepared. So everything they can do at home, staying inside between 11 and 3, making sure that they're drinking regularly. These are all really important things. Making sure you're not going out for a run at the very peak of the day, even if you feel fantastic. It's all helping to support the NHS and keeping our whole population safe.
The heat will be here until Thursday night as we continue to walk more dangerous weather. Megan Boot, ITV News.
Well, there is an overview, and rail services have been impacted by the increased hot weather, with a reduced operation in place across the network. Our reporter Gwen-Anne Campbell is at Cardiff Central for us this evening. Gwen-Anne, what is the latest with you?
Well, Andrea, it's gone 6 o'clock and it's still very, very warm. But as you can see, we have managed to hide ourselves away in the shade to bring you this update. But as you mentioned, this weather has caused disruption across the railway lines today, with trains all across the country being delayed or cancelled because of this extreme heat, including here at Cardiff Central Station. Now, our trains aren't designed to cope with this kind of weather, and high temperatures can cause all sorts of problems to the tracks and the overhead wires. And because of that, networks are having to operate at a reduced capacity. Now, Transport for Wales have warned people not to travel during this red weather warning unless it's absolutely necessary. And they've also urged people to check the timetable first and to take time during their journeys. But with a weather warning in place for tomorrow too, we could expect to see even more disruptions as this heatwave continues, Andrea.
Gwen-Anne Campbell outside Cardiff Central Station there for us this evening. Thank you. Well, despite the red warning, several large events in Cardiff are still going ahead, among them the gigs at Blackwyre Fields, where The Cure are set to perform in front of 30,000 people. There for us this evening is our Consumer Affairs correspondent, Kate Lewis. Good evening, Kate. Not everybody who has tickets are happy.
No, that's right, Andrea. This is the first concert here at Blackwyre Fields of the year, and it has been somewhat overshadowed and drawn widespread criticism, as many people think, due to this weather, it should have been cancelled. Now, Cardiff Council say they have sought and been given assurances from organisers that they have risk assessed it and made alterations to things. The organisers say those alterations come in the sense of they've added more shaded areas, just a little bit like this tree which I found tonight, which I'm sure people will be welcoming. They're also allowing people to take more water in. They put more water stations in there and have an enhanced welfare team too. But many people feel, who had tickets to go tonight, that is not enough. And actually, this is about looking like putting profit over people's safety. I spoke to one lady earlier on who has a chronic medical condition, and despite being a huge fan of The Cure, she made the decision early on not to come here.
I knew as soon as the weather warnings were coming, it's going to be hot on Wednesday and Thursday. I knew standing that length of time, not allowed to take chairs in, I wouldn't be able to do it. So we put them up for sale. And then obviously now more and more and more on social media and selling pages, there's so many people trying to sell their tickets. And obviously they're not selling now because people are unable to go. It's too hot. So yeah, I think it should be cancelled, definitely.
Well, it hasn't been cancelled. As you can hear, perhaps the music going on there. The Cure expected to take to the stage around 8. Now, lots of these people walking here tonight will no doubt hope the temperatures will drop. But I've looked just as we came on air, and it doesn't look like they're going to drop lower than 30 degrees. Those temperatures are higher than what we would have on average during the daytime in June here in Wales. And the humidity is off the scale too, I can assure you of that, standing here. But look, Lily Allen is also performing over the other side of Cardiff tonight. That is indoors, so there is aircon there. So not so much concern over the people indoors, but still safety concerns over those people travelling here and getting home safely too.
Kate Lewis, thank you. Schools, transport, childcare, all things being affected. Scientists have called this week's extreme heat a sobering reminder about the reality of climate change. Experts warn that scorching temperatures are only set to become more frequent and more intense. And while most of us search for that shade, farmers across the country have had no choice but to face the elements. Hannah Thomas is on a farm for us this evening. Hannah, explain to us what the impact is where you are.
Well, it's important to say from the top, Andrea, that I'm not going to be staying in this heat for very long. But as you can see behind me, James Price here is having to go on the harvest. He's in that tractor baling up. Why now, do you say? Well, because quite simply, this hay is ready and it's like a cake. If you leave it in the oven too long, it will overcook. If I can just show you the state of this hay, look, this is how dry it is. This is how ready it is now for baling. Contrast that to when I was last here live speaking to you in February, when it was so wet that James's little lambs had to put raincoats on to protect them from that wet weather. Now, of course, we've got this. We are searing. It's what they call climate change.
Llantoni Priory in melting Monmouthshire. The stream here has completely dried up. But after Storm Claudia 7 months ago, it was a torrent. Now there's no water at all, and we're even standing in it.
It's one extreme to the other. We're going from having so much water, it's completely changing the shape of the land and damaging infrastructure that we've had in place for years. And now it's totally dry. We're looking for water sources elsewhere to help the livestock.
This is what Bryony means about damaging infrastructure. I filmed the landslide on the main road here back in the winter, which cut off the valley for months. So it's gone from very wet to very hot.
We were wearing raincoats and wellies, and probably had been for months. And now we're boiling hot and wishing we had sandals. We're in a world where we're looking for both flood resilience and heat resilience.
In Llantoni Priory shadow, Bryony's sheep are trying to stay cool, but it's not easy.
Because it's still only June, many of these sheep still haven't been shorn. So they've come under this tree for cover. And that will be the challenge for farmers with climate change going forward, finding enough shelter for the sheep to have in winter when there are storms and wind and rain, and then finding enough shade for them in summer with this intense heat.
Bryony's having to bring water up to them in a tank. But what are Welsh Water going to do to protect our water supply as climate change deepens?
We need to maintain the focus on reducing leakage. We've also invested heavily in our infrastructure to link water supply systems together so we can move water more flexibly between supply areas, and that investment will continue over the next 5 years.
Residents in Monmouth will be hoping they don't see this again over the next 5 years. It's red for heat today. It was red for rain 7 months ago. But are the Welsh Government doing enough to see Wales change with climate change?
Well, we understand and accept it is a climate emergency. I don't think that's well understood by all political parties in Wales, but we do understand and accept it is a climate and nature emergency. And we're working cross-government to make sure all departments are tackling that in everything that we do.
In Llantoni, Bryony Gittins has no idea when she'll see this stream full of water again. But for now, she does know that this valley is baking in the heat.
Well, the Llantoni Valley is in that red weather warning zone, and so is where I am now. If you're wondering how James there and his dad are managing in these tractor cabs, I don't know either, because there is no air conditioning in there. And that is a question we're all going to have to grapple with. Will we need air conditioning in the future in our schools, in our public buildings? If so, who is going to pay for it? How do we fund it? Our homes, how do we keep them cool in future? At the moment, they're designed to keep the heat in and not out. So what do we do with them? These are all adaptations that we're going to have to make as climate change gets worse. You can see the harvest still going on behind me here, Andrea. I just hope they manage to stay cool in the coming hours.